Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. This week I have another fabulous guest. His name is Dr. Bill Thomas, and he is an author and advocate for aging. And we have a lot to talk about today. No matter what age you're at, you're aging, right, Dr. Thomas?
Absolutely.
So do you want to introduce yourself and talk to the audience about how you got involved with aging specifically?
Sure. So I'm actually a physician and a geriatrician. So my specialty has actually been taking care of older people. And what I discovered pretty early in my career was that how we think about aging has a huge impact on the quality of life that people experience and even the medical care that they receive. So I've all along been really interested in sort of challenging and overcoming some of the stereotyped images that surround aging, and also actually exploring some of the very difficult misunderstandings we have about youth as well. So I've become sort of a doctor of the human life cycle with a mission of changing aging and changing how we think about aging in America.
Isn't it funny because, you know, this show is called Better Living, and originally we geared this show towards seniors. And as like what you said, every topic I interview an expert on, I realize it really doesn't matter. It all goes back to just living your best life.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It doesn't matter how old you are. Every single show I do to geared towards older adults is really geared to everyone.
Yeah, if you think about human beings, they're incredibly complex creatures, and that's kind of one of the things that's beautiful about us. And the idea that you could reduce a human being to a single number, like to say, oh, he's 83. Well, you know, that number gives you some information, but it actually does not give you a lot of information, because people who are 83 can be very, very different from each other. And I think you're right on when you say that we should look at this in a more age-neutral way, because age itself just doesn't give us the information we need.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's really a lot to do with how you perceive yourself and the age that you feel you're at and what you can do in that age, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah. One of the things that I really advocate for is this idea of owning your age. So
I'd like to own 10 years ago.
Well, good luck. Good luck on that. I will say to you that it's actually much easier to own the age you are right now.
Okay.
That actually has some advantages for people. So if you look at, I'll give myself as an example, because I actually just turned 56 yesterday. So
happy birthday.
Thank you. And I really, when I was 55, I really did my best to work on being 55 and, you know, living my life where I was at that point. And I hope to do the same this year as well. And if I'm lucky, maybe someday, I'll really work at living as an 83-year-old man. And that will be different than now. Not better, not worse, different.
So how is living at 56 different than living at 55?
I think it has to do with the idea of and I'm giving myself as an example. So maintaining a really strong belief that I'm moving forward. I think in our culture and in our society, a lot of people develop the idea that, and you hinted at this earlier, that they'd like to be moving backward.
I don't think I hinted. I think I screamed it.
Well, you know, yes, perhaps screamed. So this idea is that if you look at a birthday and you feel the sense that I'm moving forward on an adventure, on a journey of discovery, and this is going to take me to the next stage of that journey of discovery. That allows you to cultivate different ideas and different feelings than if you say, oh boy, now I'm 56, wow, I'm on my way to 60, oh my goodness, what's that all about? That takes you down a different road, and actually that road is not as good for people.
It's funny that you say that, because we've done some shows on grief recently too, and talking about the future and your plan and establishing new traditions and looking forward to the rest of your life. It just seems to all I mentioned at the top of the show, everything intertwines with each other. And I love what you said. As long as you're moving forward, you're moving.
Yeah.
And as long as you're moving, your body understands you have something else left to do, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, and, I think we're both kind of digging into this idea of purpose. That purpose is essential for finding that way forward. That a person living without a sense of purpose has a much harder time actually maintaining health and vitality, because those are really tools that are meant to be used for something, and the something is up to you.
That's right. Now, so let's talk a little bit. You're the doctor. I'm just the assumer and have my own thoughts and opinions, but you have all the education behind it. How the emotions connect with the physical being. Like, there's a physiology in that, right?
Well, yes. So, again, we were saying earlier in the show that humans are really complicated. Not only are we human beings complicated, there's also a lot we don't really understand fully. And one of those things is the relationship between emotion and our physiology, or our heart and our kidneys and our liver. Our liver does not have emotion, but there's evidence that our organs and our organ systems do respond to some of the changes that are associated with emotional states. So I don't want to overstate it, because some of the evidence is conflicting. For example, there is some evidence that pessimists live longer than optimists.
Really?
Yes.
How is that? I don't know.
There is an argument. There is plenty of evidence.
You've crushed me.
Well, don't be so pessimistic.
I might go to the other side now.
Well, let's just kind of look at that. There's a lot of evidence that shows that pessimists are actually more realistic than optimists. Okay? If you talk to optimists and you talk to pessimists and you talk to them about what's going on in their lives and in the world around them, the pessimists are actually much better at describing what's really happening. The optimists tend to talk more about what they kind of wish was happening. So as a result of that, having a better grip on reality may actually give you some slight survival advantage.
Okay, so I'd like to take that study one step further and say, of the optimists, the ones that made it happen, I bet they live the longest. But of the optimists that couldn't get it done, maybe they just fell into depression.
I think you're right. That's the next, further study is required, and I think that may be the next
they haven't won me over on that one yet.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, but I do understand, and I can understand the logic and the rationale behind the fact that when you have realistic goals and expectations, maybe you're on a more even keel instead of a lot of major ups and downs that optimists typically go through. And that can wreak havoc, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, and again, we're right now, we're talking about scientific studies with large numbers of people. And the point is, we don't live in a scientific study. We're individual people. And a lot of what matters most is the quality of our lives and how good or bad we feel about our lives. That is a very important
our own perception
piece of information.
Our own perception of the quality of our life, more important than the actual quality of our life.
Yeah, Right.
Yeah.
Those things can diverge wildly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see that in folks, and that frustrates me. You know, especially, too, some people who are going through grief, because this is something I'm living in my work life right now with some folks, and I say, I'm so sorry and sad for you. You have a major loss. However, you have a major life. Please find some balance, because you have so much to live for. And it's hard to get that through.
Well, I think, and I don't know anything about your situation, so I'm only speaking generally, but, you know, the emotional upheaval associated with grief in many ways is functioning outside of the logical, rational system. Mm-hmm. So a person who is on this storm-tossed sea of emotion that, you know, we call grief, hearing an appeal to logic and reason sometimes is not able to respond.
That's true.
You know, just as if you were on that ship and you're getting tossed all over, you wouldn't be able to respond necessarily to logical appeals.
That's true, and there's that optimist in me. So let's talk about if you have folks that come to you and talk to you about aging and where they're at in the aging process and how they feel. What are some tips and tools and things that you work with them on in order to live their best life at their present age, as you mentioned? Own their age.
Well, the first is to become conscious of and aware of our society's ironclad equation of aging and decline. So here we are talking about aging, and what people are taught to hear when they hear the conversation we're having, it sounds like we're having a conversation about decline.
Right.
And you have this kind of quirky guest on who's saying that aging might not actually be decline, and that's kind of weird. But actually, there's a strong case to be made for the fact that aging is a different kind of growth. It's not the same kind of growth you experienced when you were 14. That's one kind of growth. I'm 56. I'm growing every day, every year, and I'm growing in a different way than I did when I was an adolescent or a young adult. And that if I open myself to it, I can keep growing for decades to come. So this idea that aging equals decline paralyzes many people and actually causes them to abandon the project of personal growth, because their society tells them it's not realistic, it's not valid. In my case, I argue the opposite, which is that aging equals growth.
I love that. And you know what's coming forefront of my mind now that you're talking about this, Dr. Thomas, is you see these folks who are middle-aged and, you know, they've raised their family, they've had their careers, and then, you know, mid-2000s happened. The economy just fell to pieces. People's whole thought and perception of who they were changed. And you have these folks whose children are out of the nest and they don't know, they're not thinking about the future. They're still stuck in their past and what used to be. And then you start to see their health decline, and it's all kind of coming to me as an aha moment, because they have to look at this as an opportunity for the future.
Well, a future to be determined. And in fact, when I hear you talking about that, I hear you raising the Buddhist concept of attachment. So if aging is growth and growth is change, and we know that growth is change, or it wouldn't be growth if it wasn't change. So that means we have to do as much letting go as we do taking hold. And where some people experience difficulty is in the letting go. And you sort of mentioned, I think, you know, for example, people who moving into what in America we call the empty nest sort of phase of life.
Right. That
requires a pretty substantial letting go of that period of time when you had juvenile children in the house, and you were up to date on everything that was happening with them, and that you have to let go of that if you're going to take hold of this future, perhaps with a spouse or a partner, or with your career or your art or your music or whatever it is for you that you're going to take hold of. You can't really take hold of that until you let go. So growth at all points is really a process of both letting go and taking hold.
And embracing change.
Yeah.
Which is in our life, in every stage of our life.
It is indeed, yes.
I see it at work. The folks that are most able to handle the changes are the ones that do the best, last the longest, and have the future career at work because they're embracing change. And these could be 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, whatever the age is.
Sure.
And so that is exactly what you're talking about right now. So on this note, I know you're an author. Is this the premise of your book?
Well, actually, my most recent book is called Second Wind. And it's about embracing a life that's slower, deeper, and more connected. So, again, yes, a big theme of my writing, just as you would guess, a big theme of the book is this notion that we've got the wrong idea about aging and that it's really about growth much more than decline.
Yeah, and there is something about just getting moving that just makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Second Wind, it's everything that we're talking about, but what else do you want to tell us about this book?
Well, I think the three really simple things I think to take away are we live in a world where everything is supposed to be fast, and in fact, the best, most virtuous things are often slow. So the things you think about as being most valuable in life and most worthy are often things that are associated with slowness. So slow can be really good, and aging can open the door up to slow and allow you to enjoy slow food, slow sex, slow medicine. I mean, there are lots of ideas about slow that are gaining currency.
As you can imagine, I run. I mean,
really?
I don't mean that physically. I mean, I run. I never stop running, as you probably have guessed from this show already. And it's what you're saying is my new focus, that I'm trying to add balance by slowing down and being in the present.
Right.
And I work with a gentleman now. He's our COO at work, and he's very particular. He's actually a book writer, an author. Now, when you say write a book, I can probably get real motivated and excited to write the first chapter, and then I want to tell you what happens at the end.
Yeah, there you go.
And he is very... cross your T's, dot your I's. I work with him on contracts. I'll look and I'll negotiate and I'll say, can you look this over? And it's amazing how much more effective I am because he, through watching him, is teaching me to slow down and pay attention. And I'm trying to take what I'm observing in my work life to the personal and presence of my physical family, every other aspect of my life, because this world is crazy. This world runs a mile a minute. And I say it a lot. You know, back in the day when there was one parent working household, you could breathe. Now you've got two parent working households. And not only that, both are running because they've got to do better, make more money, help their family survive and live in this world. And so now we've taught our children, you've got to run, work, never stop. And maybe it's my age, that whole middle age thing. I'm really working on slowing down. I'm not doing that good at it right now, but I'm getting there. It's so important what you said because your body needs it too. Your mind, your soul, everything. This,
ironic because, as you mentioned, in America, we always think faster is better. But as you move into the middle part of your life, you do develop a consciousness of some of the value that slow can bring into your life. The second, and one I would say, the slow opens the door to deep. And it's hard to develop deeply meaningful relationships, deeply meaningful practices, deeply meaningful connections when you're going fast all the time. Mm-hmm. So the slowing down is really a way of merging into a way of life that focuses on deep, authentic emotion and connection, a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. Those things are really not as available to people who are rushing at top speed. So one way to think of aging is that it's actually preparing you for a much more rewarding kind of life that is as different from midlife as childhood is from midlife. So if you look at the difference between a child of 7 and a woman of 47, you say, wow, there's some pretty big differences there. Well, there are also big differences between a woman of 47 and a woman of 87.
And I hope I get there.
Yeah, I hope so, too. That would be great for you. And it sounds like you're prepping for the right kind of fulfilling a journey that is really what I'm advocating for in the book.
I will get there. I see myself old and gray. I really do. I truly don't believe I'm going anywhere for a long time. So,
well, that would be nice.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. I do just want to let folks know, again, this is Dr. Bill Thomas talking about aging and how much we all have to look forward to, no matter where we are in our life. We need to own our age and look at the future. And he is an author, and his book is called Second Wind, and that's available at Amazon and bookstores near you. So please, if you are looking to slow down, live in the present, embrace change, embrace your future, desiring to have continued growth and purpose and fulfillment in your life, I would encourage you to think more about the principles we talked about today. And if you like and want to take it a step further, also take a look at Dr. Thomas's book. Again, that's called Second Wind. Dr. Thomas, it always goes so fast, but how about we leave the audience with top 3 things you want folks to know?
Well, luckily, they're simple. Number 1, own your age. And be your age, and you'll be happier than if you were wishing to be some other age. Number 2, remember that aging equals growth, not decline. Aging has elements of decline in it, but it is not defined by decline. It's really defined by growth.
And I love what you said on that note before you get to number 3. It may be decline in how fast we can go. It may be decline in our physical being, but like you said earlier, that decline and that slowing down actually promotes an enhancement of other aspects of our total being. Yeah. And so joy and fulfillment and better, deeper relationships and experiences can happen because it can be seen as a gift of being able to slow down.
That's it. So that's number 3 for me. Get ready to enjoy a slower, deeper, and more connected life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Thomas.
Enjoyed it.
Second Wind by Dr. Bill Thomas. And where can someone get that book if they're interested in getting that book for you?
The book is available in bookstores and on Amazon.
And Amazon. Okay, again, it's called Second Wind by Dr. Bill Thomas. Have a great day.
You have a great show. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead. And listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead. And listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.